So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new news roundup video, and as usual, there's quite a few stories to sift through today, starting off with a brand new DC Studios casting for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. So we have Matthias Schoenaerts there, I probably butchered the name, I do apologize, landing the Supergirl villain role. And this is coming from Deadline, but all of the major trades are talking about it. Deadline say exclusive, we can tell you that Rust and Bone actor Matthias Schoenaerts has landed the villain role in DC Supergirl. Supergirl is based on Tom King's 2022 comic book series Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Ana Nogueira adapted the comic book for the big screen. In that comic, the bad guy is Krem of the Yellow Hills, who kills a young alien girl's father, which of course does kickstart the story. And I believe the Hollywood Reporter are actually saying he is playing Krem of the Yellow Hills. And to be fair, just with the casting, I think that is obvious. Now, I have to admit here, in terms of my thoughts about this casting, I thought I hadn't seen any of his work, but it turns out that I did actually see a movie that he was in with Tom Hardy way back in like 2014 titled The Drop. So I looked up a scene of that and familiarized myself with him, and I was like, okay, no, you know what? I mean, I think he has the looks down easily to play Krem, but also he was pretty intimidating in that movie. So I would say, like, as far as I'm aware of Matthias Schoenaerts' work, I think he will be a good Krem of the Yellow Hills. It's going to be interesting seeing this adaptation of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow anyway, just with regards to, you know, there's lots of rumors out there and how is there going to be Lobo in this movie? Is Krem going to hire Lobo? And that's the way we're going to get Jason Momoa's Lobo in the DCU. Deadline does continue to bring up once again that House of the Dragon's Millie Alcock won the Supergirl title role after an extensive search. She's also appearing in another DC project before making her big screen debut as the Angel of the Sky. The reason why I say it gets brought up again is because this has been a rumor for quite a while, and it feels fairly self-explanatory that the DC project that she'll appear in before her own Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which is coming out the summer after next, is Superman. Long story short here, the idea is that I think that Kara has been on Earth for a few years already. For example, James Gunn even described Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow being that she was raised on a chip of rock, a chip off of Krypton, and watched everyone around her die and be killed in terrible ways for the first 14 years of her life, and then came to Earth when she was a young girl, which I think, given where the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow storyline takes place, where she is quite a bit older than 14, obviously. In fact, I think she is celebrating her 21st birthday in that comic book storyline. It makes sense that she came to Earth several years ago, so we might see her in Superman to the point of, I don't think a huge role, but just some scenes, or a scene maybe, in where we see her with Clark. They could even save that towards the ending of the movie. I've even seen some of you suggest in our Crypto talk, because it's fairly obvious that we're getting Crypto the Superdog in the movie, that Kara herself could have arrived to Earth with Crypto, rather than Crypto being there from like day one when Clark was a baby or got sent to Earth before Clark actually landed there as a bit of a test subject or anything like that. I think actually, yeah, I love the idea of Kara arriving to Earth a few years, maybe 5, 6, 7 years before present day Superman, James Gunn's Superman in the DCU. She's been living here the whole time, but that's when Clark met Kara, that's when he met Crypto, and that's how obviously Crypto will be in the Superman movie, and also the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow adaptation, and where Crypto obviously is in that as well. Now, this isn't the only casting news that we've heard recently, because up next from Deadline, Alan Tudyk playing secret role in James Gunn's Superman. Now, there are a few options that this could be in terms of how Alan Tudyk could be reprising his role as Dr. Phosphorus in live action, as we've heard before. Any DC canonical animated project voiced by an actor actor, they will also be playing that role in live action as well. Unless they're CGI, of course, and then they would technically still voice them. An example of that would be Sean Gunn's Weasel, but in live action in the DCU, he will be playing Maxwell Lord. So you could also translate that over to Dr. Phosphorus here. If Dr. Phosphorus in live action is kind of pretty heavy CG, which you would imagine, then we could have Alan Tudyk playing an actual likeness character of himself, just like how Sean Gunn is playing Maxwell Lord. There's no CG to that. We're actually going to see Sean Gunn's face. So there is that option. But he could also be in this undisclosed role as another voiceover, if you will, because Alan Tudyk is exceptionally talented in his voiceover work. So that wouldn't surprise me because, you know, the first things that came to my mind was like, what if he's kind of like a voice of some kind of technology in the Fortress of Solitude, something like that, playing kind of like a robotic Kryptonian or Kryptonian tech voice. I could easily imagine that. I've seen some people even mention the voice of Crypto. The thing about Crypto for me is that I think I would prefer him to not be voiced, unlike, you know, James Gunn's Cosmo and Guardians of the Galaxy. I think, yeah, I don't know what it is. I think sure, he's a super dog, but I think there would be something more, I don't know, that I would prefer with him just barking. Do you know what I mean? Actually still being a dog, but yeah, a literal super dog. But if he talked, I feel like that would be like the next level up. I know in some iterations he can, but in many other iterations he also doesn't at the same time. So I guess like, you know, dare I say it, DCU's Titans series where you had Superboy's Crypto on that. Still a super dog, still using heat vision, still flying, but not actually speaking and talking. So let me know what you would prefer there and what kind of undisclosed role Alan Tudyk is playing in Superman. But I do want to say that it is totally possible that he's just reprising his Dr. Phosphorus role and he'll be mainly voicing that, but you never know. Since he is so talented at voicing other roles, it wouldn't surprise me if they want to use his voice for some other kind of character. Now, briefly for the DCU and Lanterns here. Future Boba, as per usual, the curse strikes on the channel, but I've managed to get a recording in. I was literally just about to talk about a little John Stewart update for Lanterns, but as I was making this video, The Hollywood Reporter just came out with a new article saying Lanterns, Aaron Pierre and Stephan James in the mix to play John Stewart in DC Studios' HBO series. DC Studios and HBO's much ballyhooed series Lanterns is hitting its final casting stage. Aaron Pierre, star of the Netflix thriller Rebel Ridge, and the piano lesson actor Stephan James are in the mix to play fan favorite hero John Stewart, multiple sources tell The Hollywood Reporter. It is unclear if the three are testing or reading, and sources say a decision could be made by the end of the weekend. And I think they say the three because they mention as well how Kyle Chandler is already on board to star as Hal Jordan. They do mention Damon Idris was on the shortlist but is no longer in contention. Now, I have to be honest with you guys, I am actually very, very, very split on these two because I think they are both fantastic actors. I think a lot of people out there might be leaning more towards Aaron Pierre, just with his recent movie on Netflix with Rebel Ridge. I know a lot of you have seen that because I've seen you talk about wanting him for this role. And it really does seem as though, you know, with them wanting, you know, larger stars in the DCU, even though that was actually said for Hal Jordan, Aaron Pierre definitely is heading that direction with his recent filmography and everything he's done. Now, Stephan James, now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he isn't big or hasn't done a lot of great work. He most certainly has. But this is why I'm so split, because they're both just so capable. Like, if you haven't seen them in much, I recommend just, you know, going on YouTube, checking out a couple of scenes, and you might agree with me in how they're both, like, really, really good candidates for the role of John Stewart. And what you have to remember for these two frontrunners is that John Stewart is quite likely going to be the main Green Lantern face of the DCU, given, you know, what we're all speculating about with Kyle Chandler's Hal Jordan. Maybe he might die by the end of the series, given that they've cast a Hal Jordan actor who's 59. Obviously, that's all up in the air right now. But without repeating myself too much more, with Stephan James, Aaron Pierre, I think they're both easy to imagine going alongside Kyle Chandler, being a bit of a rookie. They're both 30 years old, going on this investigation into this ancient, terrifying mystery, this murder in the American heartland. So I know I keep kind of dancing around who would be my preference. And as I said, I think a lot of people's preference is going to be Aaron Pierre. But for me, honestly, I would be just as happy with whoever gets picked for this, because they're both absolutely brilliant choices. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. Maybe I'll give a new update early next week, given that there could be a decision by the end of this weekend. Maybe the trades will get wind of that first before James Gunn officially announces it himself, because he still hasn't said anything about Kyle Chandler. And that just reminds me overall of how major trades reported that Nicholas Hoult did indeed land the role of Lex Luthor, but it took like a couple of weeks or so for James Gunn to actually come out officially and say that online. And that's just because of behind the scenes legal kind of, document signing related stuff. So guys, I would love to know your thoughts on Aaron Pierre, Stephan, James. Do you agree with me with how they're both, honestly, I think just as good as the other in terms of contending for this role? Or do you actually have a clear winner in your eyes for who you really want this to be? And that reminds me to now kind of check in with everybody. How are you feeling about Kyle Chandler being Hal Jordan? I'm seeing, again, as I mentioned in my reaction video, lots of people liking it, but still a lot of people being like, look, I know that the DCU has had heroes exist for a long time, but you still could have cast Hal or somebody in his 40s kind of thing. Even if you wanted to make John Stewart the main Lantern of the DCU, you still could have had Hal around. Because obviously with Kyle Chandler being 59 and whatnot, a lot of people are thinking, damn, he could go out by the end of the series, as in Hal Jordan could die. All of this remains to be seen. But we have had some concept art from Job Huts here, which I really like the look of. It kind of gets you into... And I'm super intrigued, by the way. Like, are they going to be wearing suits the whole time during this investigation? Some people have speculated that they might not. But it is like a really good point. Like, maybe they might not wear proper Green Lantern suits until like a combat situation. Because, sure, it is very comic booky to walk around in your Green Lantern suit during an investigation. But there might be times where they might want to blend in a bit more and not stand out so much in a Green Lantern suit. So that's something I would love your input and theories about. If you think they're going to walk around all the time in something like that, maybe, But if like Superman was trying to be undercover, he'd probably go in Clark Kent mode. Do you know what I mean? So we have Charles Logan here, and I really, really like this one because he says it took a sec to get used to, but I definitely see the vision. Kyle Chandler is Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, using the designs from the Slate reveal last year. So you have a little bit of a Green Lantern Earth 1 look to Kyle Chandler here. And I actually wouldn't really mind this kind of design at all. I mean, just wait for the designs to come out. There's going to be all kinds of split opinions. It always happens, no matter what comic character it is. Some people love it. Some people think it's the opposite end. They hate it. But I do like something that kind of feels practical here, a bit armored, a bit kind of, again, low-key. Doesn't have to be flooded with CGI, but maybe obviously the glow, maybe the emblem there. And in terms of what Charles Logan did through bringing this Kyle Chandler design to life through what James Gunn chose as, what to reveal Lanterns as when the Slate was revealed, this would be a pretty good look, in my opinion. Now, next up, ladies and gentlemen, I want to dive into a rumor to do with potentially the Batverse. I guess you could argue this might be the DCU, but I do want to say take these rumors with a grain of salt. But this one surrounds a project to do with Mr. Freeze. And that's kind of like, wait, what? This could arguably make sense with what we've gone over before. I bring up that Hollywood Reporter article from how they were saying Matt Reeves was meeting with writers and directors to explore ideas surrounding Clayface, Scarecrow, Professor Pig, and they weren't even necessarily TV series in the Batverse, of which Matt Reeves has spoken about a lot recently, and it seems that we're getting that, but they were actually movies. Now, this one is about Mr. Freeze, and it's coming from Production Weekly. Now, what I have to say about Production Weekly is that obviously it's not necessarily the most reliable source. It's a bit of a mixed bag because they literally are a paid subscription service and where you can get details on, well, literal production, right, in that of Hollywood. But the thing is, I don't think every single detail that they report on these production details are completely accurate. So an example of that would be, you might see something like The Batman 2 in this list, which is, a thing that is happening. However, the details that they may tentatively put in there, such as the production start date, might not be true, which actually hasn't been true before. So it's stuff like that. But could the working title or like a very early in active development but not yet greenlit project title possibly be true? Maybe. So that brings us back to Mr. Freeze. And the week before that, Clayface was still in their production weekly report from September 19th. And Clayface, from what we've heard from rumors, is that there is still some kind of, it's in some kind of development. And it's important for me to stress that being in active development doesn't mean a project is greenlit. For example, Constantine 2, the sequel to Keanu Reeves' original Constantine, is in active development. The script is finished, but it hasn't got the green light for pre-production or anything like that. Another example would be Matt Reeves' Arkham show, the GCPD show, which we're going to go into details on in just a few minutes' time. Active development, but never got greenlit to production. So, is the whispers of this Mr. Freeze thing actually true? I don't know. That's the thing. I would probably say, probably, maybe, kind of, maybe not. But never say never, just with, like, what Matt Reeves has got planned. And the reason why I'm saying Matt Reeves is because I believe those with an actual subscription to Production Weekly found out more details, and it is indeed coming from 6th and Idaho Productions, which is Matt Reeves' production company. It also has Matt Reeves, James Gunn, and Peter Safran listed as producers, as well as DC Studios, DC Entertainment, the Safran Company, and Warner Brothers Television. But then again, that doesn't uniquely make it a part of the Batverse, because we actually heard from James Gunn himself back in December, even though we've heard nothing about it since then, that Matt Reeves pitched a Arkham show for that of the DCU. So Matt Reeves would have been producing that. Now, we don't know if that's happening anymore, but what I'm trying to say is, since James Gunn was comfortable to talk to us about that way back when, that means you can't rule out Matt Reeves potentially producing and pitching other ideas for DCU projects about certain characters, such as Mr. Freeze. But if I was to try and conclude this here, I don't think this would be a film in the DCU. Out of all the projects we've already got announced, I doubt they're just going to announce a unique Mr. Freeze movie as they're getting to the final project's closing chapter 1. If anything, one of those will be a big ensemble team-up movie, maybe a World's Finest, maybe finally something to do with Wonder Woman. So you see what I mean? It'd be kind of random if we're like, Mr. Freeze, unless you want to argue an Elseworlds project. I don't know about that one. So, it makes more sense, I guess, arguably for the Batverse, as per that report the Hollywood Reporter said, literally with Matt Reeves, and they're claiming exploring ideas for Rogues Gallery movies, not just TV shows. And I have said with Matt Reeves that even though it's not a super fantastical universe, Matt Reeves did say that they're going to walk the line of that. And I do believe, even if not everyone likes this execution, I do believe, and I have made a whole video about this, that they could do a rendition of Mr. Freeze in this universe. But it's still hard for me to imagine, literal movies launching alongside the mainline Batman movies. TV shows make sense to me. Okay, you got the Penguin show, it bridges the gap from part 1 to part 2. Even if you wanted to do the GCPD show, a freaking legal drama series as rumored and stuff, that makes sense, because like TV shows, you can tune in, tune out of them. I guess you could say that about a movie, but an actual feature movie in a movie theater within the Batverse that may not even have Batman in it to do with Mr. Freeze, it's just a bit harder for me to imagine how that's truly executed, So enough of me rambling about this. Do you believe it? Do you think there's any grains of truth to it? Because also, we can't forget about the whole Clayface thing, and if that spans back to what Mike Flanagan was potentially up to. I don't know, but any and all thoughts, theories are welcome down in that comment section. But next up, speaking about the Batverse, the Penguin has been very, very successful. Here we have from Variety, the Penguin opens to $5.3 3 million viewers across platforms in the first 4 days. That puts it above the final season premiere of Succession, which drew in 4.9 million viewers, and the second season premiere of White Lotus. It just falls behind the premiere of True Detective Night Country, which nabbed 5.7 million viewers. And additionally, the show has landed the biggest 4-day audience for a new series on Max in every region globally since The Last of Us in January of 2023. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because it's just fantastic news in terms of the future of the Batverse and the idea of exploring more potential shows, of which Matt Reeves, in recent interviews about the Penguin series, has talked about multiple times. So I'm just saying, of course, we need to wait to see how the rest of the Penguin performs, but you know, it's performing very, very well. So I've already said this, and I'll say it again, that Casey Bloys, Sarah Aubrey, the head of HBO original programming, I believe, and James Gunn, DC Studios in general, are probably salivating, being like, okay, Matt Reeves, Dylan Clark, what more have you got up your sleeve in terms of, you know, doing future shows in this Batverse? Can you do another one before the Batman Part 2? Maybe, maybe not, but another one between the Batman Part 2 and Part 3, and just in general. So I can't wait for the future and what other things Matt Reeves could have in store. But what would you like to see most out of a future show? Could it be the Penguin Season 2, in where you see Oz exploring his kingpin status in Gotham? Because they could technically do that. At first, the idea of that to me was like, really? A Penguin Season 2? But think about it. If he's not going to die anytime soon, he's going to become the kingpin of Gotham at the end of the season. And I doubt they're just going to take him off the board in the Batman Part 2. They could explore a whole new wave of severity with him trying to maintain that power in a second season. But is there something else that you would like to see? Maybe a revamp of the GCPD show. Perhaps another show that bridges the gap between Part 2 and Part 3 that explores Harvey Dent and maybe his downfall, and just maybe some GCPD elements incorporated into that from that abandoned show. And speaking of the Penguin, by the way, we did get a weeks ahead trailer, which looks freaking awesome. So if you enjoyed episode 1, don't forget to tune into my episode 2 breakdown. But this really does give you a glimpse at the stakes, the craziness ahead. Also, even getting little teases of Oz flashbacks from when he was a kid. I don't know what else to say other than it just really does get the appetite going already, if it wasn't already at that point after seeing episode 1. And if you haven't seen episode 1, then I think, yeah, you're missing out. I mean, fair enough if it's not your thing, but my god, the numbers should say it for itself. But we've also had, in related Batverse spin-off show stuff, Terrence Winter talking about the shelved Gotham City PD series. So this is coming from the playlist.net, and he says that the idea was that we were going to do a 1970s cop show, something that felt like Sidney Lumet's 1981 crime and police drama Prince of the City, but in the Gotham City Police Department. It was going to have that 70s feel. It was going to be a present-day cop who is like a third-generation Gotham City cop, you know, his grandfather, his dad, and, you know, and Gotham City was largely corrupt. And this is the guy we meet in the present day, who's realizing that he's kind of on the wrong side. The Batman was somebody that lived in that world, but you never really saw him, and it was really all about the police department and sort of this guy. Which is interesting to just read there, by the way, that in the GCPD show, we wouldn't have really had Batman as well. I think there were rumors back then that it would have been set during Batman Year 1, and they might have actually done that thing where Batman saves Gordon's life, which would have been pretty cool to see. And Matt Reeves said that we may still see that happen in some way, shape, or form, but I think that would have been in the Gotham PD show. And he goes on to say that, and I worked on it for a while, and ultimately, you know, Matt wasn't feeling it, and I left. I know they brought in another guy after me. I can't remember his name. The guy who did Tokyo Vice. He worked for a while on it, but that didn't go anywhere. I have no idea what he did, and then I read about the Penguin. And they say, despite all the work put into it, Winter has no hard feelings about it at all. And, you know, that's great. Good for them. Like I said, it was Matt's idea originally, and, you know, more power to him. Sometimes you're in sync creatively, sometimes you're not, or you get off on the wrong foot thinking, oh, maybe we should do this, and go, oh, you know, that. This is just not really working. Also, because there was Gotham, the show Gotham certainly took place in New York City, in the Gotham City Police Department, rather, it kind of stepped on the toes of our idea a little bit, even though ours was going to be totally very different. I think Penguin is great. I agree with you. I think they did a great job. It's also super interesting how he mentions Gotham, as in the show Gotham. I assume he means Fox's Gotham, because I don't know what else that could have been. And he obviously describes the similarities and how that kind of, even though it's going to be totally different from Gotham, it stepped on the toes of their idea, and maybe the sense that they concluded in one way, yeah, us doing this show, even though it's totally different, maybe kind of a bit too soon after a show that was called Gotham and followed Jim Gordon, Harvey Bullock, even though Fox's Gotham was very much so intended to be about the GCPD. As we know, it grew into like following Bruce a lot, other characters, the Rogues Gallery characters, Jerome / the Joker kind of building up more and more and more. So even though it was totally different, I think that, on top of several other things, Matt Reeves was just like, you know what, let's just evolve this and use some of these ideas from the Gotham PD show into shows like The Penguin, of which he's confirmed, and maybe some other things in the future. Now, up next, I want to talk very, very briefly about Joker Folie à Deux, and just saying that there are leaks going around online, so do be very careful about that. I have unfortunately seen them for myself. I kind of, it just popped up kind of thing, and then I was like, oh god, it's right there, may as well continue finishing that line of the sentence. I'm sure you've been there before, and it's causing a lot of like hoo-ha controversy online with regards to the ending. I'm not sure if it is legit, but it does seem to be pointing that way. But yeah, let's just say it's very, very interesting. If you do know the leaks, please do not spoil it for other people down in the comments, or at least like leave a bunch of spaces and spam spoiler on it so nobody gets unintentionally spoiled. But yeah, even if that is the ending, I'm kind of thinking, and what I will say very obscurely is that it is Elseworlds, so they do not have to follow like super traditional kind of widely viewed canon for these characters. That is inherently what Elseworlds is. So I'm very open-minded with that, and I will be open-minded going into what this possible ending, near ending of the movie could be. But at the same time, I am a bit like, we're going to have to talk about this one when the breakdown comes out, because I am of a couple of different minds about it. But what I will say is that I'm seeing a lot of people post the leak or talk about the leak saying that, oh, this makes the whole movie shit or something like that. And I don't think like an ending going down in a way that you may not like story-wise or whatever makes all of the sum of the parts that make up a movie shit. Do you know what I mean? I really don't view it that way at all. There is just a lot of things that go into a movie that can be appreciated, even if, fair enough, you don't like a way they may have executed something, narratively speaking. I guess that's all I'm going to say about that now, but yeah, look forward to my review / breakdown / spoiler review when we get to that, because I think I'm going to have a lot to say if that does turn out to be true. But beware spoilers online. But ladies and gentlemen, that's everything I'm going to get around to talking about in today's News Roundup video. So you guys know the drill here. Let me know your thoughts, your theories on everything that we talked about today. And if you got this far, I would really appreciate a like, as it really does kind of catapult the video out there a little bit more, tells the YouTube algorithm to kind of, hey, maybe some other people should see this video. And of course, consider subscribing for more videos like this, news updates, reviews, breakdowns, you name it. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, just thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you people of the DCU in the next video. Goodbye.